Monday edition. Blue today. Miami with Andrew Beach on assignment. Always got lots of stuff going on in Broncos country. Welcome into the program as we talk about a potential trade that the Broncos could have interest in. Do you want that if you're the Denver Broncos? You're looking for running back help. How do you find that running back help? There's the draft. There are still some free agents left. And then there's the possibility of a trade. Here to talk about all that and more today. Again, orange and blue today. It's been a while since I've done a solo show. Mace has to do a solo show sometimes. I got to do a solo show sometimes. It's fine because we're chatty blankety blankers and we love to talk about the Denver Broncos and how does it look for this team at the running back position. Well, I've said it before, they could basically change almost the entire room and I would be okay with that. I would be more than okay with that for the Denver Broncos because they do need so much help. But the trade that I'm speaking of is any potential suggestions that it's Breece Hall. Now, Breece Hall with the New York Jets, we're getting reports. Rich Simony from ESPN, one of the longtime ESPN beat writers, one of the best in the business. Simony had reported that the Jets, they are going to go with kind of a running back by committee approach. And I'll pull up the news story here to just be precise with it. But so Rich Simony comes out, and once there's a report of, hey, it could be a committee, then, of course, people lead to the speculation of, do they like Ashton Jeanty? Would they trade Breece Hall? Now, Rich Simony's report, again, says Aaron Glenn, their new head coach, may use a committee approach at running back this season with Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis expected to complement Breece Hall. Now, that's from Rich Simony. But go on Twitter and look at that for 5 seconds, and you'll see everybody talking about how, well, does that mean that if it's going to be a committee, is Breece Hall want to be the 3-down back? Would he be traded? And what team would be interested? We're here to talk about if the Denver Broncos would be interested. And you look at Breece Hall, a player almost in a way like Alvin Kamara, where he's never had the 1,000-yard season. Now, he's not as much of a veteran as Breece Hall is, only 3 years into his pro career, of course, and a player that when he comes out of college, he's a player that I like. Iowa State back, you're thinking this guy could come in, be a David Montgomery type of back, could be even more than that as a lead back. Of course, the Jets pick him up in the second round. And then as a pro, he goes for, 400 yards, 900 yards, 800 yards on the ground, but catches 19 passes in 7 games as a rookie. And then catches 76 passes 2 years ago, catches 57 passes last year, and that was in 16 starts. So with Breece Hall, you go, all right, there's a guy that's in the final year of his rookie contract, going to be very motivated, and going to be a guy that's maybe looking to break out as a featured back. And something with the Jets, he's always split a little bit of time, even though a couple of years ago he was the main and the primary back. He has been for a couple of years, but just not getting over that 1,000-yard plateau, which again is fine because you could be like Alvin Kamara, who has never rushed for 1,000 yards, but he's regularly getting 1,200 all-purpose, maybe even pushing for 1,500 all-purpose yards there as well. And with a Sean Payton system, you would wonder and go, yeah, Breece Hall in a Sean Payton system, yes, please. That could look really, really good, and it could look really sweet for the Denver Broncos if they were to consider that, right? With Sean Payton, with Breece Hall, and then a rookie running back as well. I think if we talk about any sort of trade possibilities, and again, this is Simony's report about them using a committee, speculation abounding on Twitter that they like Ashton Jeanty and they'd look to trade Breece Hall. Okay, I don't know if I necessarily believe that because this time of year in the season of lies, here it's April 7th, 1,000% we're in the season of lies. But when you hear stuff like, well, they would like Ashton Jeanty, and Jeanty is an upgrade over Breece Hall, there is no doubt. There is no question. But you look at it and you say, okay, is that real? Or is that just because the Raiders don't seem like they're going to take Jeanty? And the Jets are now saying essentially we're open for business, either with Hall, if they actually do like Genty, or with a team that goes, we got to get in front of the Bears at 10. The Chicago Bears, almost point blank period, will take Ashton Genty if he's on the board at 10. He's not going to get past 10. It's much in the same vein as we look at Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State. He's not going to get past 14. So there's demarcations where you can look at this draft and say, if you like Tyler Warren, you got to get in front of the Colts. And if you like Ashton Genty, you got to get in front of the Bears. He won't even make it to Dallas, sitting there at 12. Now, the current buzz has been building that they want speed at the wide receiver position, which leads a lot of people to go, oh, that's Matthew Golden. That's a Texas wide receiver that they'll want to pick up there. So, always constantly changing, if you will, the kind of what's available or what could be available for any of these teams. But there's a few points in this draft where you want somebody, you're going to have to move up to get them. So the conversation then becomes, if you're the Denver Broncos, are you looking at other avenues? Are you looking at other ways to get your running back secured? And again, if you were to go to Breece Hall, it would be plus a rookie running back. This is not outside of a rookie running back, because you have to ask, what's the question in terms of compensation? It better not be much. If you're thinking about Breece Hall, it had better be, something like a 4th rounder. They don't have a 5th rounder, but I doubt they would take a 6th rounder. And I always say this when it comes to running back trades, that if you look at Marshall Faulk, who was traded from the Colts to the St. Louis Rams back then, it was a 2nd and a 5th for a Hall of Famer who was an all-purpose guru, of course, when he was with the Colts, and a player that Peyton Manning said it was like having another coach on the field with Marshall Faulk there for the 1 year before they essentially replaced him with Edgerrin James. But they traded him for a 2nd and a 5th. So with Breece Hall, the asking price, it had better not be much. Again, no 1,000-yard seasons, definitely gets all-purpose yards, but I don't believe the Jets, with Darren Muji, former Broncos executive, Darren Muji, they're running the show as their general manager. What would he ask for Breece Hall? Probably, a 2nd or a 3rd rounder. What would he get? A 4th or a 5th rounder. If they're really hell-bent on they want Ashton Genty, but they're going to get rid of Breece Hall, what could you possibly get? And again, he's in his final year of his rookie contract, so he's going to want to get paid. And at the running back position, you're only going to come up on that payday every once in a great while. You might only get one, if you even get one at all. So that's a consideration as well, because if you're the Denver Broncos, maybe you don't want to spend a bunch of money on a running back and you want a running back or two. I think this is a 2 running back draft for the Broncos. Omarion Hampton at 20, and then LaQuint Allen in the 6th round, something like that. Whatever combination. Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt I always go to in the 6th round. There's some sort of combination of 2 running backs that are coming in this draft. But what if one was not a draft pick? What if one was a proven veteran back that has a lot to prove because, well, again, he's in a contract year. He's going to want to get paid. So is it something the Broncos would consider? George Paton has said previously that he's going to be in on every deal. He's going to be picking up the phone. He's going to be calling. And, that's what I like about George. There's quite a few things I like about George. But one is that he's not going to be surprised or blindsided by any sort of deal that could potentially go down, because he's going to be in on the deal. So, are you on this deal or not? Chat room, let me know. Comments, let me know down below here in the comment section here on YouTube on Orange Blue Today. If you look at it and go, the price tag would be really low, I'm open to the idea with a rookie running back. So, you trade a 4th rounder for Breece Hall. You still take Quinshon Judkins in the 2nd. You still take Devin Neal in the 6th if he's there. Some people think he's there. Some people don't. If you saw Mike Kliss's first mock draft of the year and he's got his mystery mockster, it has Devin Neal, I believe, in the 3rd to the Broncos. Something like, or an option for the Broncos in the 3rd, because Kliss will give you the pick. And I believe the pick in the 3rd in his mock was Terrence Ferguson, but an option was Devin Neal in the 3rd. So, if you look at the Broncos options, you're going to have so much at running back. Maybe Breece Hall, if the price is cheap, is that answer. And then maybe it's still another back, and maybe it's still a back with a premium pick. And I always consider a premium pick in the first 3 rounds. So if you got Breece Hall, you probably wouldn't draft one at 20. And defensive tackle may be the pick. We need to start thinking about that with the draft 2 weeks and 10 days away, something like that. So less than 3 weeks to go. 2 weeks and 2 days. Sorry, my math is off. But if you look at the Broncos and what they need in terms of draft picks, where they're going to pick these players, I think we need to get used to the idea of running back, defensive tackle, tight end in the first 3 picks. What order they go in, I'm not yet sure. But running back, defensive tackle, tight end in the first 3 picks may be the direction the Denver Broncos go. So if they go that direction in Breece Hall in terms of trading for a running back, it doesn't mean they're done. And I don't think it changes the draft plan other than running back, defensive tackle, tight end. And maybe with a Breece Hall, you would be more tempted to take your running back in the 3rd round rather than the 1st or even the 2nd round. But I wouldn't be surprised if you got Judkins in the 2nd, even if you did trade for a Breece Hall. So again, George Paton's going to be the guy that is calling around on every single deal. Breece Hall is a talented player. He's good at catching passes out of the backfield as well. So you have a 3-down player who's looking to make more money, looking for a larger opportunity than maybe afforded with him with the New York Jets, because they have Isaiah Davis there. And don't forget about him with South Dakota State. I believe, is he a Jackrabbit? Is that right? So when you look at Breece Hall, you're like, all right, Braylon Allen's there. He's a talented back. Maybe they like Genty. Maybe they don't. I mean, you should. Chances are Darren Muji, who, of course, is a San Diego State guy, would remember the days when a guy named Marshall Faulk, I mentioned him twice now in the show, came out of the Aztecs and was that sort of, oh, he plays in the WAC. You know, when I hear that about Genty, I kind of laugh because I heard that about Marshall Faulk back in the 90s, and it goes on and on and on. I think Walter Payton's the best running back in NFL history, and he played at Jackson State. So I don't want to go to, well, who did Genty play, level of competition. I think that's almost a boring conversation because it's about, do you have the skill to make it in the pros? And with Breece Hall, the answer is yes. And with Ashton Genty, the answer is yes. Now, Genty, again, upgrade over Hall. But do the Jets really want to do that, especially knowing they're not going to get a Hall, pun intended, for Breece Hall? You'd probably get, like I said, you'd want a 3rd. You'd want a 2nd. You spent a 2nd on him just a few years ago, but it's running back. It's depreciating value. But you go, okay, could you get a 4th for him? Would someone be willing to do that? The answer is perhaps yes, even with a great running back class coming in. That also hurts the chances of a Breece Hall trade if you're the Jets. And that's why I think the speculative report about them liking Genty and then perhaps trading Breece Hall, I think with this draft class, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. If you're the Jets, you need so much. And Genty is a transformative player, to be sure. But you have so much need if you're the Jets right now that at 7, you could get a Tet McMillan. I believe there's an offensive lineman they've been kind of associated with in a lot of mock drafts. So if you look at what the Jets are going to do, I really think it's wide receiver or more specifically offensive line. It could also be defensive tackle with this great defensive tackle class. So to think that they'd get anything for Breece Hall, probably not. To think that they would want to move on from Breece Hall, it's going to be a committee. I mean, we look at Aaron Glenn and where he came from in the Detroit Lions, and of course, Aaron Glenn with the New Orleans Saints there as well. It's committee and committee and committee. That's what it is in New Orleans when he was there, working under Sean Payton. That's what it is in Detroit, working with Dan Campbell. And if you look at a Jahmyr Gibbs is very Ashton Genty-like. So perhaps Aaron Glenn does want Genty. He could be their Gibbs. But remember, by the time the Lions got Gibbs, they had their weapons assembled around Jared Goff. And then you get Gibbs as that kind of next weapon, if you will. I believe Sam Laporta was in that draft as well as their next pick. But either way, if you're the Jets, you have so much to do. Why would you trade away a known back for a transformative back, an upgrade for sure, but knowing that you're not going to get much for Hall and you have so much, by the time you're good, Genty may be done. If we look at all the backs that have had, all the touches, all the workload, it's one of those things where I had my buddy Mike asked me today because I tweeted out a report from the Draft Network about Quinshon Judkins and the Denver Broncos. And my buddy Mike was like, "You worried about fumbles?" I'm looking over these numbers, and Ian Hartitz from My Fantasy Life, he has this out there on his Twitter. Ashton Jeanty, 830 career touches, 12 fumbles. Quinshon Judkins, 798 career touches, 4 fumbles. So am I worried about fumbles with Quinshon Judkins? No, not at all whatsoever. I'm worried more about fumbles with Bashal Tutin, 406, 10 fumbles. Raheem Sanders, 658, 12 fumbles. Even Rashard Smith, who people like for good reason. He's a converted receiver. That's a weapon. 361 career touches, 7 fumbles. So that, Jaden Blue, 270 touches, 9 fumbles. That's much more concerning than Judkins, who almost has as many touches. Devin Neal, Judkins, and Ashton Jeanty are all at the 800 mark in terms of touches. Now, Judkins is at 798, but let's just round up. He's at the 800 mark. Devin Neal with 838, the most, 5 fumbles. Ashton Jeanty, 830, 12 fumbles. Let's put a pin on that. Judkins, 798, 4 fumbles. So am I worried about fumbles there? No. And Judkins is the type of guy that I think you could get at 51. I like Devin Neal in the 3rd round. And, perhaps the Denver Broncos do there as well. So is a trade for Breece Hall even going to happen? Who's to say? But I don't think the Broncos would necessarily be interested because they want rookie running backs on cheaper deals. And this draft class, again, just takes away any sort of trade value that you would have in Breece Hall because you have 30 draftable running backs. You have a literal smorgasbord of talent coming at you in the draft. So why would you have to make this move unless you want that seasoned veteran? Because right now in this backfield, without Javonte Williams, of course, you've got Estime on his 2nd year, McLaughlin on his 3rd year, Watson on his 2nd year. Bidet has been around, mostly practice squad, but you just don't have experience. How much are we willing to pay for experience? Now, that's in draft capital this year because you wouldn't have to pay Breece Hall until next year. And if he blew up for you, good. You'd have a good problem. And if he didn't, good. You could see and have him test the free agent market, which then, by the way, means you would be up for a compensatory pick. And running back, it's a tough game. So if a running back can get his money in any way possible, I'm all for it because they don't get a lot of money and they don't play very long. Average career in the NFL is 3 years. Average career for running backs, about 2. So running backs, Breece Hall's already played 3. He's been pretty good. A little bit banged up, but it's been pretty good. So could he be pretty good for Sean Payton? Of course. I think the Sean Payton bump for any of these backs, I like Devin Neal a lot. There are others out there that maybe are less high on Devin Neal. I like Devin Neal with Sean Payton, and so would you. Of course, Jeanty, Hampton, Henderson, Judkins. I saw somebody on YouTube in the comments was like, you like Cam Scatapoo. And I was like, he's my 8th running back this year. I'm not exactly sure how that means I like him. But yes, if we go down the list of running backs, Scatapoo is going to be in the top 10. I think for the most part, he's in everybody's top 10. When I'm done with my rankings, I'll go look at what everyone else is doing. Anxiously awaiting on the 9th, the release of the beast from Dane Brugler in The Athletic. I tell everyone, Dane is the best draft analyst out there when it comes to all positions. Matt Waldman's the best when it comes to skill positions. So get that rookie scouting portfolio. It's only 1,200 pages on just skill positions. Anyway, I digress. Would the Broncos have interest? Yes, because they're interested in everything. They're looking at all avenues. Is it going to happen? It just doesn't seem like it. It just, it seems like the Jets would want too much, and then, you'd be paying Hall in a year. So there's a lot of complications there. It's more likely, in my opinion, that the Denver Broncos could trade back in the 1st round, still pick up the running back that they like. Probably not Hampton if they move back from 20. If Hampton's there at 20, because Dallas has brought him in for a top 30 visit. I believe the Chargers have as well. If you're looking at, can you move back and still get Omarion Hampton? Probably not. And if you did, you couldn't move back that much. It's something Mason and I are going to explore this week on this show about if you're the Broncos, could you go ahead and move back and still get who you want? That's the question. We'll have the answers for you. So, hi to everyone in the chat room that's jumping in. Jay says, hairs down, Cecil means business. I'm talking running backs. So, running back business of football. I like it. Jay and everyone in the chat room, thanks for showing up and thanks for jumping in on Orange and Blue today, because we need your help on YouTube. So like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And tell me down in the comments, do you want to trade for Breece Hall? Do you want Quinshon Judkins in the second? Do you want Marion Hampton in the first? We all want Genty in the first. We all want to trade up. Don't think it's going to happen, but, I've had these sort of dreams become realities before. Dion getting hired by CU, that was my pipe dream. So that came to fruition. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. But how do you want the Broncos to best approach the running back position? I want 2 backs in the draft. And if Hall was cheap enough, I'm not against it. If the compensation for trade is cheap enough, I'm not against it. And I still want a back in the first 3 rounds. So Breece Hall and a back in the first 3 rounds. What do you think? Tell me in the comments down below. And as always, follow Andrew Mason on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned. Peace. And stay frosty.